Okay, there we go. So, welcome again, all. So glad that you could join us today for this inaugural 2025 event with the Center for the CLGS African American Roundtable. My name is Reverend Terrence Mayo. My pronouns are he and they, and I am excited to serve as the new coordinator for AART and excited to have my good friend, Reverend Redeem Robinson, with us today to invite us into an opportunity to learn and to also better ourselves in this particular social political moment that we find ourselves in. And so I am going to invite you into whatever posture feels good to your spirits and your bodies in this time. So we can be good receivers of the word today. And after Reverend Redeem has finished with the content portion of his discussion, I will invite us to be in conversation with each other. So make sure to have your questions ready, and we will make sure to have some time for those at the end of his presentation. So that's a little bit about me. I will introduce Reverend Robinson, and yeah, and we're going to take this off so we can be good stewards of our time as well. So you probably have seen his long resume or of his many accomplishments, but I want to quickly introduce Reverend Redeem Robinson, who is an ordained minister, political and social rights activist, and founder of All Souls Movement, a Black and queer-led interfaith advocacy organization focused on racial justice and voter mobilization. He also leads Holy Trouble LLC, which equips people of faith to disrupt systems of oppression in their local communities. A former elected official from Arizona and activist, Reverend Robinson has a passion for justice and amplifying marginalized voices. Reverend Robinson currently resides in San Juan, Puerto Rico, where it is much warmer than where I am here in New York. And he is a dynamic speaker, teacher, and a holy troublemaker in his own right. Please welcome Reverend Robinson at this time, what he shares with us. And again, like I say, at the end, we'll make some time for your questions and have some conversation. All right, Reverend Robinson, I will pass it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you all for having me today, Reverend Terrence. Thank you for having me. It is an honor to be with you all today and just to share a little bit about Holy Trouble. I just want to make sure, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right. Once again, I bring you greetings from the occupied island of Puerto Rico. And I am praying for all of you who are enduring cold weather because it couldn't be me. I yeah, I would never ever complain about 82 degrees uh, while I see snow in y'all backyards. um, so yeah, let us go forward in our presentation today. It's going to be kind of interactive, but just wanted to just share. I know we only have an hour together. There's a lot of information I want to share with you all in an hour, but I'm not able to do that. So I'm going to give Reverend Terrence my make sure that he gives you all my contact information. If you have any other questions, I feel like with presentations and workshops, there should always be like some kind of follow up, and I always like to interact with people that I present with. So definitely want to talk with you and share with you all. Um, you know different things that we talk about and see how we can put everything into action. So today's presentation, the call to holy trouble, in the era of Trump, resisting empire and centering liberation. Um, just a little bit about myself. There's a mugshot of me from 2019. Let me actually, before we go into, I kind of want to share background of this mugshot here. So it was back in 2019. And I'm going to be straight up and honest. it was a protest at Central United Methodist Church, right in the heart of Central Phoenix. And it was a nice white-led uh, um, organization that put together this rally at Central United Methodist Church regarding children being locked up in cages. And once again, this was during the Trump administration. So there was like a lot of people out there, probably like 1,000 people that came to the church and to protest about kids being in cages. Well, after the end, they wanted to do a protest, silent protest, and they wanted to do a silent protest and march around the church. Uh, Anybody who knows me, I wasn't down with that. I was like, what are we doing? Silent protest? No, absolutely not. So me and a couple other people, we actually deviated from the whole march, and um, as soon as we got outside the church, we end up blocking Central Avenue, which is like the main it's the busiest street in the city of Phoenix. And along with that, we blocked the light rail. So yeah, me and a few others were standing on this light rail for maybe 2 hours, holding up traffic. And we said, and the news was there, the cops was there, of course, the cops were there in SWAT team gear and everything. And they asked us, why are we doing this? And I'm like, hey, when there's children in cages, the whole city got shut down. Like, what are we doing here? There's kids in cages. Uh, Atrocities are happening right now. Like, what are we doing? So yeah, we was all arrested. I think it was like 20 of us that got arrested that night, and we actually highlighted how violent Phoenix PD was that night. Um, yeah, we did cover the children in cages, but yeah, we also highlighted how violent Phoenix PD was. Um, there was a few people who were tackled. It was on camera that an elderly man who was tackled by the police, who was just standing there, was tackled by the police. And a couple weeks ago, they um, finally went to court over that. So the Department of Justice is still investigating the Phoenix Police Department because of that night. Anyway, I said all that to say there are times where we have to get out of line and disrupt and to agitate and to cause holy trouble and to shut down cities. And that's what we did that night. And the organizers of the rally, oh man, they were pissed at me, and I didn't care. I didn't care. Um, I didn't care. I felt like that was a um, soft action that needed some teeth, and so we did what we did. So, opening scripture and kind of just framing the conversation for today, I want us to look at Matthew chapter 21, 12 through 13, where Jesus is overturning the tables in the temple. Um, does any actually kind of just want to make it open? Anyone want to just share why did Jesus go crazy in the temple and just start overturn the tables? Feel free to just share.
What
Anybody?
oh, I'm sorry. Wasn't this when he had gone? They the people had taken and were selling like pigeons and all this stuff that the people needed to buy
Hmm.
to give to to give away for offering and all that kind of stuff. And he was like, "Why are you taking these poor people's money and ripping them off like that?" And he got mad and began to turn over the tables. And as I talk about it, I see what we're going through now.
Yes,
This is
yes,
foolishness.
yes,
Yeah, so much.
yes,
I appreciate this.
yes, yes. And by the way, this is one of my favorite scriptures. Jesus overturning the table. I just love to hear about this guy. He goes into the temple and just starts clearing the house, you know, chasing people out, turning over tables. And I often think about, what if Jesus did that today? The cops would have been called on him. The cops would have been called on him. Like, and of course, it's actions like this that, that one of the reasons why he ended up on the cross in the first place. So we're going to talk about that later on. But yes, you are correct. And capitalism was on full display in the temple, and Jesus wasn't having that. Jesus was fighting capitalism. He was fighting the powers that be by going into the table, going into the temple and turning over tables. So I also want to talk about issues that are happening now. So we talked about Jesus going into the temple. Let's talk about the issues that are going on now: systemic racism, poverty, anti-LGBTQ legislation, war and genocide, anti-immigrant legislation, and the U.S. is turning into an oligarchy before our eyes. Anybody else kind of want to share some issues that are happening now that are one I left off is climate change. Climate change is happening. It is here. It is here. There's no denying it. Especially living out here in Puerto Rico, like, climate change is definitely here. I don't know if you all know, but Puerto Rico actually ended up suing fossil fuel industries like ExxonMobil and so many other fossil fuel industry corporations. Anybody else want to share some issues that are happening now that think we should highlight?
I think the erasure of identities and of histories is important.
Oh yes, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
I would add expanding American imperialism.
Oh yes, absolutely, absolutely. That's like a huge one, and I don't think like people are like really like noticing, especially right now. Trump is talking about taking over Canada and Greenland and the Panama Canal. Like, that's scary. And Gaza, he's talking about taking over Gaza. That's scary. Anybody else? Okay, so question: what does it mean to be a holy troublemaker in the face of empire? First, let's get a definition of what holy trouble is. And this is what I put in my manual. I have a manual called the Manual on Holy Trouble for the Black Church. And this is what I put in there. What is holy trouble? It is the intentional disruption of systems of oppression inspired by a higher calling. Jesus did this when he flipped the money changers' tables, challenging economic and religious exploitation. Holy trouble is not a gentle nudge, but a prophetic defiance against injustice. And I'm putting this here in big, bold letters. Holy trouble equals breaking the law. So let's expound on that part. Holy trouble equals breaking the law. Um, we're now living in a day where standing up, we as faith leaders or people of faith or whatever, um, we have a moral obligation to break laws when they are unjust and they are affecting other people's lives. So when we look at slavery, slavery was legal, but people were breaking the law by harboring slaves, making sure that slaves were fleeing the South and going up north or into Canada or to Mexico. Um, that was breaking the law back in those days. And so now, in the era of Trump, during the Trump administration or regime, whatever you want to call it, we have a moral obligation to break laws. So I'll use, for example, Trump is now talking about it's illegal for churches, hospitals, and schools to hold sanctuary for undocumented immigrants. And we, as people of faith, we believe that immigration is a right, it's a human right, and that all people should be able to migrate. Jesus was a migrant himself. So we have a moral obligation to break these unjust laws and create sanctuaries for undocumented immigrants. So that's holy troublemaking right there. When there's anti-LGBTQ legislation, we have a moral obligation to shut stuff down, period. And so as people of faith, we have this moral obligation to break unjust laws to protect people. And we have to have that courage no matter what. And I'm going to go a little bit further in this. So part of a part of holy troublemaking is we have to have the courage. And I know a lot of people, and I've been in a lot of situations and protests and direct actions where people were scared of jail time. They were scared of the police. They were scared of just, you know, um, just uh, uh, you know, putting weight on the situations. But I believe that we as holy troublemakers, if we're going to call ourselves holy troublemakers, we have to lean on our ancestors and our elders. So I'll use, for example, when I was out there on Central Avenue in Phoenix, um, blocking the light rail in Central Avenue, I leaned on my ancestors like Harriet Tubman, those who led slave revolts, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. And you see, I put in there beyond I have a dream and confront. I'm talking about the Martin Luther King who was confronting militarism, capitalism, racism, and calling for reparations. That Martin Luther King, Fannie Lou Hamer, the Reverend Dr. Jeremiah Wright. These are the people that I lean on when I'm in direct actions and when I'm called to cause holy trouble. So it's really imperative that while we may be afraid of, you know, of the consequences for causing holy trouble, we must lean on our ancestors. Because what if our ancestors um, didn't do the things that they did? What if they didn't cause holy trouble? Harriet Tubman, what she did leading the Underground Railroad, that was holy trouble. Martin Luther King Jr. Um, um, leading marches and confronting militarization and capitalism and standing bold and to denounce the Vietnam War. That was holy trouble. And so many other of our ancestors. Just real quick, who are some of your ancestors or elders who are currently alive that you lean on when we're talking about holy trouble? Come on, I know y'all got some. Angela Davis, that's a good one. That's a really good one. Sorry, I'm just seeing the chat. Marsha P. Johnson, that's a really good one. Hmm. Hmm. These are good. These are good.
And I can read some of them for you. So Fania Davis,
Hmm.
Sofia Rivera. I'll add a couple of mine as well. So definitely James Baldwin, Audre
Hmm.
Lorde, June.
Hmm.
Um, also like the many saints who have done like transnational black work and thinking about how the black diaspora kind of support each other. I'm thinking of the radical version of MLK Jr., not the
Oh yes.
not the passive one.
Right, right. Not the I have a dream.
Someone in the chat, they also said Langston Hughes, Reverend
Hmm.
Eloise Oliver. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Someone else said Audre Lorde.
Hmm. These are good. These are good. These are good.
Apostle Peter.
Yes. I love it. these are good people to lean on. And I hope I'm not getting too far ahead of myself, but when we are when we're in front of the empire, facing the empire, confronting the empire, it's imperative that we lean on our ancestors because they're with us. They're with us as we are fighting for justice, as we're fighting for all people, as we're fighting for liberation. Our ancestors, our elders who are still with us. They may not be with us presently, but they are with us as well. So let me go here. The church's role in resistance. Three pillars of prophetic witness. One, speaking truth to power, public theology, organizing for justice, social movements, and providing sanctuary and mutual aid. So that looks like direct service and solidarity, opening churches up to be sanctuary churches for immigrants. So these are some ways how the church can resist during the time while we're in this era of Trump's second term, which in my opinion is a lot worse than his first one, because this guy came out the gate swinging. Like day one, this guy was swinging on day one. I put this picture here of Bethel AME Church in Greenwich Township, New Jersey, where Harriet Tubman used during the Underground Railroad. Once again, the church was breaking laws. They were breaking laws. And this is what we're called to do. We're called to break unjust laws. We are called to agitate. We are called to disrupt. We are called to be holy troublemakers. I'm going to go to this one real quick because I feel like this definitely needs to be said. So I said that we are called to be holy troublemakers. We are called to agitate. We are called to disrupt. What we are not called to do is rub elbows with the empire. I'm going to say that one more time. What we are not called to do is to rub elbows with the empire. So right here, I posted a picture, and I don't care who gets mad, but I posted this picture of President Biden speaking at Mother Emanuel AME Church I believe it was in 2023, Charleston, South Carolina. As you can see, there is Representative, oh Jesus, why I forget his name? Oh,
Clyburn.
wow, I'm having Clyburn. Yes, Clyburn. You have a few clergy members up there. And this was right before he was interrupted by peace lovers. The news says that they were pro-Palestinian protesters. I don't want to call them that. I want to call them peace lovers, peacemakers. Um, but this was right before he was booed, and right before these peace lovers um, they were escorted out of a church for calling for a ceasefire. Isn't that crazy? You can be escorted out of a church for calling for peace. And not one clergy member stood with these protesters. That's actually really sad. And so I have a couple points here. You cannot be a prophet and cheese with the empire's officials. Straight up. I don't care. If you're a Democrat, Republican, doesn't matter. At the end of the day, um, all of these people represent the United States empire, which is not good. It doesn't have a good history, and is not good now. Um, you have to ask yourself, why do most Black and brown countries hate the United States? There's a reason for that, because we're destroying Black and brown countries. I can even tell you, as a person who's living here in Puerto Rico, that the United States is robbing this island. Is robbing this island and has silenced the voices of millions of Puerto Ricans. How can Puerto Rico? How can Puerto Ricans be? How can they? They're eligible to sign up to enlist in the military, but they can't vote. That's the empire at work. And so, it's stuff like this. And then when we have our faith leaders cheesing with presidents, and I don't care what party it is, presidents, senators, and all these people who represent this empire, our Black and brown siblings across the world is looking at us like, what are you doing? I'll use as another example, and I don't care who gets upset. I hope you don't get upset, but I use the Reverend Dr. Raphael Warnock, who pastors Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta, Georgia, where Martin Luther King used to pastor. It's very ironic. It's very weird to me that he would take AIPAC money and he'll take AIPAC money and support. He's actually pretty pro-Israel, and that's very concerning. So our Palestinian Christian siblings, they're looking at like, what is happening? Isn't this guy supposed to be a reverend? Isn't he supposed to be the successor of Martin Luther King in his pulpit? What is happening here? So, and here's the thing, and I know faith leaders, we love to take pictures with politicians. I used to be one of those people as well. I have several pictures with politicians. Raphael Warnock, one of them. Nancy Pelosi. I met several of them. But I've come to learn that we can't say that we're standing in solidarity with our Black and brown siblings across the world, and we're over here rubbing elbows with the empire. That just doesn't work like that. So once again, you can't be a prophet and give the empire a platform. Let me go a little bit deeper with that one. 2024, the election, that was wild to me. I've never in my life, everyone pretty much said to hell with Palestine, and to the Palestinians, let's do what we can to get one of these people that's in part of the two-party system elected. We need to get them elected. So yeah, it was very It was very concerning to see the empire give platform. The church give empire a platform, just like this picture that we see. That's concerning to me, and that should be concerning to you. So once again, if you call yourself a holy troublemaker, a prophet, or whatever, you can't be cheesing with empire's officials, and you can't be giving the empire a platform. That's not what holy trouble is, or good trouble. And and I put a little WWJD there. What would Jesus do? Do we hear about Jesus kicking it with officials? No, not at all. They killed him. So yeah, let me go back. Holy troublemaking in action. So holy trouble in action, naming injustices from the pulpit. That means calling out racism, homophobia, transphobia, xenophobia, all the phobias, sexism, calling it all out. It needs to be done from the pulpit. And here's the thing: it doesn't matter. It don't matter who you make mad. Hey, people want to leave. Hey, that's cool. Let them leave. I was accused of. I spoke at a church last year, and apparently someone got mad at me for calling Jesus a Black Palestinian Jew. They didn't like that. They left, and I said, "Oh well, who cares? Let them go." Prophetic preaching is going to offend people. You just got to deal with it. I know that sounds very, very harsh, but you just got to deal with it. Political engagement, not endorsing candidates, but challenging policies. We got to be really careful about this whole taking picture with candidates and endorsing candidates. One, churches shouldn't be doing that anyway. That's get your 501c3 status taken away. But You got to be very careful about who you endorse. And this is coming from someone who used to endorse politicians and candidates, because um, I'll get on social media and endorse so and so, and come to find out they ain't. Come to find out, I'm taking pictures with politicians, and come to find out they don't even support reparations for African Americans. So, we got to be careful on who we endorse. We shouldn't be endorsing candidates like that, but we should be true holy troublemakers, and true prophets are the ones who are challenging policies. Yes, we can make connections with politicians, but these people are not our friends. These people are not our friends. We should be challenging their policies and staying on them. Number three, protecting the vulnerable. Um, making your churches sanctuary spaces, food distribution, housing justice, things like that. These are the things that we're called to do. This is holy troublemaking, because the system doesn't want us doing these things. The system doesn't. The system already told you that you can't create. You can't turn your churches into sanctuaries for undocumented immigrants. They literally just told you that, and so we must protect the vulnerable. And number four, disrupting the narrative, using media and social media platforms to challenge lies, misinformation, and even also challenging our own theologies, our own doctrines, and stuff like that. There's some stuff that we must disrupt in our own churches as well. And I got a little picture right there. I like to, post pictures along with these things. It's actually my mentor right there, Reverend Dr. Warren Stewart, in Phoenix, Arizona. We were on the street calling for, protesting the police in 2020 during the George Floyd uprising. Let's go to, make sure I didn't skip anything. Nope, I didn't. Hmm. Uh-oh. Resistance in the pulpit and the streets. So yes, once again, we're called to resistance in the pulpit, calling out the injustices from the pulpit, and in the streets. So like many of our church leaders, and I keep trying to tell preachers this all the time. If you're going to be truly prophetic, you have to get out of your church office. Get away from your church office. Go actually be out there with the community. Go actually be go and actually march with the young people who are protesting racism, violence, and war and genocide. Actually, go out there. And it's wild to me that while so many churches are emptying out, and they're just being emptied, this is a great opportunity to share about your congregation, and you know to bring people in, actually leave the office and go out into the streets. So I posted this picture here. This is when I was at First Church UCC in Phoenix, and we was protesting Trump in 2017. Trump came to town. He was speaking at the convention center. We had over 800 people show up to our rally that First Church put together, and we organized. And we had over 800 people. I mean, so many people we couldn't even fit them inside the church. This was like the crowd that was outside, and we marched to where Trump was speaking at. As soon as we got there, we was met with tear gas and rubber bullets, and we actually had the general minister of the United Church of Christ with us at the time, Dr. John Dorhauer. He was with us, and chaos erupted. We lost him, and it was wild. Um, so ever since this time, First Church was known as being a hub for social justice. It was known for being a hub for organizing. And that's what we made it as. All the organizations that wanted to organize, we let them use space. Let them use one of our office spaces, or whatever room that we have for free. It was the organizing hub of Phoenix, especially right there in downtown Phoenix. So the question I have for you all is how can it be a site of holy trouble? For those who are pastors or faith leaders or whatever, or how can a church in general be a site of holy trouble? Anybody want to chime in on that?
Hi there, it's Reverend Yolanda. How are you?
Hey, welcome.
So, I belong to East Bay Church of Religious Science in Oakland, but I'm now living in
Mhm.
North Carolina, and there's no church like that, here. So that is my church, and I put Reverend Eloise Oliver in the chat when you were asking about, our ancestors and elders. So she is 93 years old. She was
Mm,
the senior pastor at East Bay Church for 25 years. The church at one time didn't have their own space, and she decided that the church needed its own home that they can operate out of. And one of her tenets was she wanted to make the church a place of sanctuary for those, I mean, she's 93, so she's seen a whole lot of life. And she wanted to
hmm
make
hmm
it a place where, people who needed sanctuary could come to. She wanted to have the church because she'd been in religious science, I don't know, God, I don't know how many years. But when she first started going to the church in Oakland, it was up in the Oakland Hills. And the only bus that ran up there was Monday through Friday. And after 6 p.m., if you wanted to get up there, you either had to walk or have a car. And she decided she wanted to have a church that was by a bus stop so that anybody who wanted to come to the church, even if they weren't there
hmm
for the service, if they were there to get food or they need money, they could get there because it was by a bus stop. Most working people are taking the bus, they're not driving a car. And so one of our prayers that we say, God is the only power in my life, we say it in English and we also say it in Spanish. She started learning Spanish because she wanted, if somebody comes to the church and is saying, I need help, something's happening, she says, I want to be able to understand what they're saying or have someone there who can understand what they're saying. First, get them inside because you already know that something's happening, and then be
hmm
able to understand what the situation is for them. And so, and she's still with us. She's moving a little slower, but she's still with us. And now we have, I don't know, at my church, we seem to have all female, Black female senior pastors in our church for some reason. And now we have Reverend Derica Blackman. And she was in the justice movement before she became the senior pastor of our church about, almost a year and a half ago. And so, my church, they're always looking at, we have, these, our town hall meetings where we look at what's going on. I'm still plugged in into Oakland, even though I'm on the, other side of the country, and always looking at what's going on. What do people need? We have a prison ministry. It's been for like 15 years. We had a prison ministry, and I used to be a part of the prison ministry and the food pantry. And it's one of the things I'm missing being out here in North Carolina, that they just don't seem to have those things here. So I guess I'll have to create something myself.
Yeah, I totally feel you with what you're saying. Because we don't have those type of congregations and stuff like that. To be honest with you, we really don't have that out here in Puerto Rico as well. The religious scene out here is very conservative. Uh, so I sometimes we got to create those spaces. And as a person who has created spaces, it's tough. It and it sucks, but it's necessary. And I feel like there are people that will support our work. So maybe, well, I'm sorry, what part of North Carolina again?
I'm in Jones County, so Trenton. I'm out in the rural part. I'm going to be moving soon closer to the nearest city, which is New Bern.
Oh, I know New Bern. New Bern, that's
Yeah,
what we call it, New Bern. I
yeah,
used to
New
live in
Bern.
Greenville, North Carolina.
Okay, yeah, one of my
Yeah.
nieces and kids, they live in Greenville. Yeah.
Listen, Eastern North Carolina, it needs you. I'll just say that.
Yeah,
Uh,
the state is pretty red. People voted for Trump, but now we have a Democratic governor, lieutenant governor, and state attorney. So
mhm.
yeah, it's kind of confusing.
Yeah, it's a weird political yeah.
And the courts are mostly Republican. So yeah. But
Hmm.
I'm here
Hmm.
and I'm ready to do the work.
Amen. Let me go to the next one real quick. We got about 20 minutes. I want to leave room for questions. So
Hey,
risk and costs. Oh, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, in the chat, Manny also lifted up ways to kind of for church to be holy troublemakers is to hold space for dialogue, reflection,
Oh,
sharing
yes.
resources, and also wisdom sharing.
Yes, yes, yes. Holding space is for these things is super important. Um, and once again, this is what the system doesn't want you to do. We are called to do what the system does not want us to do. And actually, before I move to the next slide, I will always ask this question: if your church was to shut down, would the powers that be would they be happy that your church shut down, or would they be glad about, or would they be upset? If they are happy that your church closed, then you was doing the work. So, and I'm going to be straight up and honest. When I left Phoenix and left my church duties in Phoenix, oh, I could tell you so many politicians was happy. I know for a fact that the mayor of Phoenix was happy. And she's a Democrat because I hold all of them accountable. I don't care about parties. I hold them all accountable. Um, so you gotta ask yourself if your church was to close, if you as a Holy Trouble was to leave, are politicians happy? Is the system happy that you're gone? Let me go to the next slide real quick. Risk and cost of Holy Trouble. Um, Pushback from congregants, denominational leaders, political figures. As someone who's been in the streets, I've had pushback from all three, especially denominational leaders. One of the reasons why I do not affiliate with a denomination anymore. Uh, I, um, I just don't have time for that no more. More power to those who are affiliated with denominations. I just can't. um, and yeah, you're going to get pushbacks from political figures. So yeah, part of Holy Trouble making is yeah, you're not going to get invited to all the cool luncheon meetings with the politicians. You're not going to get an award on MLK Day. I've never gotten awards from politicians. I've never gotten awards from so-called community. From I never got any kind of NAACP awards or anything. Actually, the NAACP hated me, being straight up. Um, because I called them out for hosting coffee with cops. No, we're not doing that in 2025. I mean, back then it was 2020. They was hosting coffee with cops, and I'm like, no, we're not doing that. So I've never gotten awards from the empire, and so that's some of the pushback you're going to get if you are truly a prophet or a holy troublemaker. Don't expect accolades. You're not going to get them. And if you are in this work to get accolades, man, you need to get about this work. The risk and cost of Holy Trouble. MLK shift from being a hero to a government target. So yeah, they love MLK until he started talking about reparations, militarization, and condemning the Vietnam War. Then he became a government target. So some of the risk of becoming a holy troublemaker is you are going to be a target. It is what it is. I'm just being straight up. Jail time. I've been arrested 14 times. There's a picture with me. That's the last time. And I ain't going back. I ain't doing no more jail time. I'll let the younger people handle that now. But and this was during the Biden administration. Actually, I've been arrested more times under the Biden administration than the Trump administration. The empire is the empire. It doesn't matter who's in. Doesn't matter who's in office, Democrat or Republican. It's still the empire. I know some of y'all don't want to hear that, but it's the truth. And one of the things that we can't do is we can't let fear stop us. Because what if MLK had let fear stop him? What if um uh what if Marsha P. Johnson would have let fear stop her? We can't let fear stop us in this work. Your community is dependent on you. Real quick, building the Liberation Church, creating safe spaces for resistance. That means decolonizing decolonizing the worship, removing empire symbols, white Jesus imagery. That means what you got the American flag up in your church for? Hmm? That's a system. That's a symbol of empire. Images of white Jesus. Jesus isn't white. I hope we're still not having. I hope we're not still having pictures of white Jesus. During Advent, the Christ candle is usually white. Why does that center candle have to be white? It's little images like that that we need to evaluate and have some conversations about. Two, grassroots organizing, partnering with local movements. I can't stress this part enough. As faith leaders and churches and whatever, we must partner with other local organizations, and especially in the Black church. I don't know why we like to do this, but we always like to work within ourselves and only with other Black churches when we should be partnering up with other grassroots organizations. So, for example, when I was in Phoenix and at first UCC, we partnered up with several grassroots organizations. And a lot of them were even faith based. We were partnering up with Puente, which is the largest immigrant rights immigrant rights organization in the country, which helped defeat SB 1070 back in 2010. I don't know if you're familiar with that. The Show Me Your Papers law that was in Arizona. That was a major deal, and Puente was actually birthed out to stop that bill. But church also partnered up with other organizations, other trans queer Pueblo, which is a queer organization within the Latino community. Economic resistance, supporting Black businesses, boycotts, resisting capitalism. This is how we build a liberation church. But I want to go back to that one, decolonizing worship space real quick. That's a key one. You got to make your worship space a safe space for all people, and it must be it must be safe for all people, Black, white, queer, Latino, immigrant, undocumented. Everybody must be a safe space for all these people, because nobody's going to want to come uh, and organize at your church, and they know this church is not open and affirming. Nobody's going to want to come and organize at your church, and they know that your pastor has preached messages condemning um, uh, uh, reproductive rights and is anti-abortion. And trust me, I've seen it happen. I've seen churches that they try to be this church where activists can come and organize, and then we find out some sermons like, oh, you don't ordain women. Oh, you anti-trans. Oh, you are against reproductive rights. Yeah, ain't gonna happen. So yeah, decolonizing your worship space and decolonizing your theology, that's key. Um, and a last question. Will you answer the call to holy troublemaking? After all the things I just shared with you, the risk, what what we gotta do, and um, will you answer that call? It's a lot. It's a lot. But you know, during this moment, we are definitely called to up our troublemaking. We are definitely called to face the empire like never before. And um, you know, anything soft in this era, it's just not going to work. So, like organize and protest with permits, that's not going to work. Not in this, not during this regime, because all that is just a march. I mean, a parade. Holy troublemaking equals breaking the law. And there are some laws we're just going to have to break. Any questions?
I have a couple, Redeem, and then I'll invite
Mhm.
others to join the chorus as well. So I'll start us off. Um, First, let's say I am new to advocacy, organizing
Mhm.
work. I am really interested in becoming a holy troublemaker. Where do I even start?
Man, that is a great question. Where do you start? I would say you um, start on issues that you're very passionate about. So, for example, if you're passionate um, about queer issues um, um, and queer rights, I would suggest linking up with a grassroots organization that deals with that. Now, it is very easy because all these issues intersect with each other. It is very easy to get over here and then get over here. My advice is to stay focused on that one thing so you're not all over the place and you don't burn out. Because that's what usually happens to first time activists. They come in here and they get pulled over here, they get pulled over here because it's happened to me, and you're burnt out. Stay focused on that one thing and link up with one organization.
Thank you for that. Our next question, as you were talking about engaging with political figures, how do we work with those representatives that are kind of speaking to us, and
Mhm.
how do we have like what does a like healthy relationship look like with representatives? And some people kind of lifted up names like AOC,
Mhm.
Jasmine Crockett, Bernie Sanders, Ayanna Presley. Like, how do we work or and speak with those that are look like they're actually trying to do some positive work?
Yeah, I think it's really important that we do highlight the good work that they do. So I'll use, for example, Ayanna Presley. I love her. She's actually one of my favorite people in Congress. I actually have a picture. Actually, she was the last politician I've ever taken a picture with. And I think it's really important that we do uplift their work, but we also don't put them on a pedestal. And we often have the tendency to put politicians on pedestals when they are not supposed to be on pedestals. They work for us. Um, they work for us, and also at the end of the day, um, and this is going to sound kind of harsh, but at the end of the day, although they are advocating for for us and doing some good things, at the end of the day, they still a part of the empire. But I'm just gonna just lay right there, but they are still a part of the empire. But yes, it is okay to work with these politicians and to highlight the good work that they are doing.
Yes, and last one I had saved here was, what part does civics education and bridge building have in the holy troublemaking process?
I just saw that question. Hold on, I wanted to read it for myself.
Hmm.
Da, 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 da. Oh, yes. How about civic education and bridge building? Um, oh, that's not how. Okay, can you repeat that one more time?
Yeah, I added a little sprinkling to it.
Yeah, yeah.
What part does civics education and bridge building play in holy troublemaking?
Yes. Civic engagement. So one
Civics education.
at yeah, that's something major that we as people of faith need to educate ourselves on, how the government works. How does how does a bill get passed? Um, and one, how do we advocate for these bills? How do we lobby? How do we show up to our members of Congress office? How do we schedule a meeting with our member of Congress? And what do we say? What do we do? These type of trainings during the Trump regime. Now, actually, it should have been during Biden and several other administrations. But since we're here, these are certain things that we need to start training our people to do. We need to learn how. I know in Arizona we have a thing called RTC, request to speak, which you're able to. Anybody can come to a committee meeting, and they're able to request to speak. And so you should be able to know how to do that. How to make your argument within 2 minutes, because that's all they're going to give you. 2 minutes to speak. So yeah, this is critical during this hour. Oh, stop the screen share. Yes.
Thank you for that. The last
Mhm.
question I have here from the chat is, what do you do? Let me, okay. What if you are called to create change within a denomination? How do you do that work? What does that look like?
Ooh, that is a challenging question. That is a very challenging question. What I think right for that to answer that is to have healthy conversations and to have teachings. Teachings are very important. And so I'll use, for example, the AME church. They're going through a time where they're trying to figure out this whole inclusion thing out. They're trying to figure this whole thing out. So they've been for the last, I think, 4 years, maybe 6 years now. They actually started a committee on human sexuality, which I think that's a major step for any Black denomination. Having those conversations, learning and deconstructing, um, but yeah, definitely holding space for some hard conversations. Um, I mean, it's 2025. We have to have some hard conversations. The churches are empty. The denominations are empty. What are we doing? We got to have conversations.
Can I share a couple of things? Thank you for this, Reverend Robinson. It's been really wonderful. One thing I want to disrupt is this notion that Martin Luther King was ever universally beloved by Black people, ever.
Oh no, he was hated
Right?
by
Okay. So, yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Or that he somehow changed from a soft to hard. But anyway. But one of the things, I'm quite clear that part of my disruption, and probably the biggest part of my disruption, is with the Black church leaders, right? Because those are the gatekeepers. And it can
Yeah.
be done in any number of ways. It was interesting. One of the things that I'm working on is decentering preaching. The pulpit is in the Black church. However, we connect preaching to maleness. So when we center preaching rather than communion, when we center preaching, we immediately push women to the side. I'm not saying that we do it deliberately, but that's what happens with the structure, right? So
No, I hear you.
yes, one way of disrupting. The other thing was really interesting.
No, you're not gonna say that and then just move along like
Well, I gotta,
like you throw
No,
a
you need-
landmine at people.
Right.
really?
Listen, that's good stuff.
I
That's
thought it
good
was
stuff.
cute.
That is-
I thought it was
no,
cute.
no,
That's
that's
good.
good.
That's good.
Yeah.
I
Keep
want to share
talking.
another one though that really shocked me. I did a piece. I work with the local. I'm Baptist. I'm still Baptist, right? Work with the local Baptist Association, and I did a piece basically debunking the notion that David was ever called a man after God's own heart. Scripturally, he was never called a man after God's own heart. Paul got it wrong. Paul quoted wrong. God never called a man after God's own heart. However, it's important in the Black church culture to hold them for that, because then men who do bad things can say, oh, I'm like David, right? And so you sort of get into that. And so I basically use through teaching and get people to raise some questions and look more deeply and rethink some things. But the preaching thing was really a good one. Yeah. And I got to run. I'm sorry, I got another meeting, but I appreciate you.
Wow. That was really good. I'm actually going to take notes. Thank you for that. Any other questions?
I have one
These are really good
more,
questions.
and I'll
Mhm.
begin to wrap us up. So what is this manual on Holy Trouble for the Black Church? What is
Oh,
it? What is it about?
yeah. So the manual on Holy Trouble. Hold on, I want to put the website in here. It is a manual that I created, where it's really used for like workshops, trainings, but you can take it and use it for your congregation. It's a bunch of it's pretty much on organizing. It talks about why the Black church should embrace socialism, why we should be talking about abolishing the police. It talks about why the two-party system is not working. It talks about reproductive rights. It talks about creating your church to be inclusive, deconstructing harmful theologies, and also other organizing tools like relational organizing, using social media to organize, and how to use the media to amplify your message and your campaigns, and also how to build a campaign. Pretty much, if your church is trying to have like a social justice ministry that's building out a campaign, this whole manual will help you with that. And it can be downloaded at holytrouble.com. And there is a code if you want to download it. For Black History Month, it's $25. Just use that code.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank, I know we are 4 minutes over, but I want to thank Reverend Redeem Robinson for joining us for my inaugural CLGS AART event. I so appreciate you stirring up stuff in us, having us to reimagine, having us to think about where we find ourselves, not only as a community, but as members of the communities and leaders in our communities, and how might we do some holy troublemaking in the context that we all serve in. And if people want to get in touch with you, what are the best ways for people to follow up with you?
Yeah, I just posted my email address, rrobinsonhws@gmail.com. And my cell phone number is 213-526-7532. Please shoot me a text. I know that we only had an hour today. There was a lot to cram in within the hour, but I usually send out emails to people with other actionable items and stuff like that. So I would love to share with you. It's not too many emails. Don't worry, I'm not about to spam you, but just wanted to just share a little bit that I have to offer with you all.
Well, we thank you for your liberal giving in this social political season that we find ourselves in. And I want to thank everyone who joined today for this wonderful conversation. This is the first in our monthly series, and definitely look out for our March event, which will be on Thursday, March 20th, where we'll be having Jay Davis with us. We will be talking from reimagining hope, Black trans queer futures in a world that tries to erase us. So hopefully we will see you for the March event and our other CLGS events. And again, I just want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. Thank you all for the amazing questions. And we look forward to seeing you at some of our next events. And we pray that you have an amazing rest of your day. All right.
Thank you so much,
Blessings. Thank you all.
everyone.
Thank you all. Be blessed.